Hello and welcome to Coop's Corner. I'm your host, Cooper Petagna. We have a great show for you today as we're going to take a little bit of a step back and take a macro level approach to this show as we are now 5 weeks through the college football season. And what a great start to the season it has been. But it's time to talk about what we think we know and what we have learned thus far. So, if you're here for Coop's Corner and you're looking forward to a week 6 preview or a week 5 recap, which there will be some of that, this show is going to be a little bit more reflective about the first 5 weeks of college football. Some of that is the 4 head coaching vacancies in the Power 4 already. That's including Arkansas, which opened up on Sunday. Some of that will be the conference representation in terms of the top of the AP poll. Some of that will be the parity, especially in the SEC. Some of that will be the uneven quarterback play that we've seen, especially with the names at the top of the 2026 NFL draft class. And then some of that will be week 5 recaps. So we have a great show. I can't wait to get into it. And we're going to hit it, and we're going to hit it hard. But first, I have to say, if you haven't subscribed to become a Coop's crony and to become part of Coop's Corner, now is the time to do that. You can do that on YouTube, where we have 80 subscribers in just under a month. And I am grateful for every single one of you that has subscribed to the channel. It's been a blast putting this thing together, coming to you once a week, every Monday at 5 o'clock Central Time. That's where you can find us on YouTube, Coop's Corner. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, tell a friend, youtube.com/Coops Petag, COOPS Petag. You can also find me on whatever socials, TikTok, Instagram, and X at Cooper Petagna. And wherever you find your podcasts as well, make sure to leave a rating and a review. Guys, very appreciative to be able to do this every week, and we're going to keep coming. So I said at the head coach openings, we have 4 through week 5 of the college football season. In the Power 4, Arkansas opened up on Sunday. Sam Pittman, he is out after 6 seasons, 32-34, the former Georgia offensive line coach. There were some ups. There were certainly some downs. This felt like a slow-moving train, and after an embarrassing 11 a.m. to Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, 56-13, Sam Pittman is out at Arkansas. Bobby Petrino, former Arkansas Razorbacks head coach, will take over for the rest of the season. So where does Arkansas turn from here? What does Arkansas need? Just some quick thoughts. Arkansas is a tough job. It's a tough place to win, especially in the SEC. The investment level, I don't question. There have been some conversations regarding, well, is Arkansas doing everything that they need to do to win at the highest level? I think that now comes with getting the right coach in Fayetteville. And who is that guy going to be? I think a really attractive name, and you're going to hear this name a lot from me, is John Summerall, especially given his SEC coaching chops, both at Ole Miss and Kentucky. He's the head coach of Tulane right now in his second season. He fits the mentality. And what I mean by that, it's a blue-collar, chip on the shoulder type of mentality, and a type of guy that you need to be a little bit of a mouth breather to understand what he's going into. And a type of guy that has been in the SEC, in that conference, knows what it looks like to win, and is not going to be afraid to ask for those type of things. The other thing is, I think Summerall, his staff have done a tremendous job at Tulane, only a year and a quarter in, just from a talent identification evaluation standpoint and player development standpoint. This is a fit here. It's somewhat of a calculated shot, but if you were to go from the group of 5 ranks, that would be the guy. Arkansas is going to need an established head coach. Some other names out there, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. I like it. I can get on board with it, especially anybody that has worked under Dan Lanning long enough. They're going to know what the infrastructure is supposed to look like. The other thing that I like about the Will Stein potential fit in Fayetteville is the offensive genius. He is technically, not unquestionably, but he is in the upper echelon of play callers in college football. Maybe one of the best, if not the best, play caller in the game right now. So Will Stein is a name that makes sense. You'll hear some other names thrown around. Jeff Traylor is a name that Trey Biddy at 24/7 Sports has thrown around. Glenn Schumann, the defensive coordinator at Georgia. It's going to be interesting where Arkansas goes from here. But this is a job, realistically, that I think can be attractive for the right head coach. And for me, as of right now, that is John Summerall. We're a quarter of the way through, which means there are other jobs that are going to open up. Florida mainly, I think, impacts the way the rest of the SEC moves. In the noise behind the scenes on Florida, if that were to open it up, it seems, at least from the agency talk, that they would have their eyes set on Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin. Whether or not he would go remains to be seen. That being said, you hear Lane in his press conferences before they played LSU, and anytime you really listen to Lane, he uses the media well to really kind of communicate to his booster base in Oxford. LSU has one of, if not the most talented rosters in college football. That's what he said this week. LSU paid for the two highest price tags in the defensive backfield in college football. That's his way of saying, hey, we'd like to be competitive in that space. We're not there yet. And you got to give credit to Ole Miss and their financial NIL arm. They've done a tremendous job, especially with the quantity that Ole Miss invests in the transfer portal. That is their lifeline, not high school. So Ole Miss is invested. I'm not questioning that. I just wonder if Lane, in this hypothetical situation, says, you know what, I'm better positioned in state to go up against Mike Norvell and Mario Cristobal with the financial resources of a Florida than I am Ole Miss. And this year and last year is going to be a really good litmus test of like, how high is the ceiling? Ole Miss undefeated, coming off a big win. We'll get into that a little bit later. But how far can you go with this team? And right now, the buzz is really high, as it should be. Does it even out at some point? Does this team make the playoffs? Can they get past the quarterfinals? Maybe Lane thinks, I got a better chance of winning a national championship somewhere else. The reason I say all that is because once that's in motion, hypothetically, Ole Miss becomes available. Then what's a better job for a guy like John Summerall? Is it Ole Miss or is it Arkansas? And it's important because year one, in terms of what you inherit, that's part of the attractiveness of these jobs as well. So we will see. There are some dominoes that have yet to fall, that have not fallen. A couple more jobs that have opened up. Virginia Tech being one in the ACC. I'm putting together a story on the first 100 days of what a new head coach's job should look like at each one of these job openings. Thank goodness I have some time to put those together. But I started doing some research on Virginia Tech, and I was talking to Colby Crawford, and if you're a Hokies fan and you don't know who Colby Crawford is, works at 24/7 Sports. He is a senior in college, does a phenomenal job. And I got put in touch with him from a mutual contact and got to pick his brain for a while on the Hokies and everything from an internal process administratively, what had gone wrong in years past under Brent Pry over the last couple of years. What does the alignment look like at the top, all the way from the governor of Virginia to the board of visitors to the new head coach to Bruce Arians leading the search committee. Virginia Tech is a really fascinating job because it's one of those places to me in the ACC, geographically, you're set up to be successful. And the DMV is a talent-rich area. Virginia has had some years being down. I think it was 2024, where that was probably one of the best years that they had in the state of Virginia in a while. Virginia Tech has done a very poor job in Maryland. Could do a lot better job in D.C., could do a lot better job in Charlotte, could do a lot better job in Tennessee, could do a lot better job in Georgia, Florida. My point is, there are natural resources that exist in Blacksburg that would make that job attractive. Can Virginia Tech and the people that currently run that operation, can you even tell me who runs that operation? Who's making the decision? Can those people put their pride aside and get out of their own way to put somebody in place that can put Virginia Tech back in a spot to compete for an ACC championship? Virginia Tech has more questions to answer about themselves than they would any candidate they're going out there to go vet. And whoever it is, especially if it's an experienced head coach, the interview process is going to be the coach interviewing the administration and Bruce Arians and the Board of Visitors and saying, who do I answer to? What does this look like? Will you give me the runway to be successful here? So that's what Virginia Tech looks like. I would expect a guy like John Summerall's name to come up there, even though if Arkansas is interested in Summerall, Ole Miss could potentially be interested in Summerall if Lane were to go. Rebels fans, don't kill me. I'm playing the hypothetical game. And I'm getting out ahead of myself, right? That's the part of this exercise. But is it a Alex Golish? Is it a Fran Brown from Syracuse? Is Virginia Tech that much better of a job than Syracuse for Fran Brown? That's where you are right now. So Virginia Tech is interesting, but it needs the right push. It needs the right vision, and it needs the right voice to be able to stiff arm some of those buffoons that have put this program in the position that they have. Two other jobs open that I'm not as familiar with. UCLA out in the Big Ten. All I can tell you is about UCLA. I worked in the Pac-12 footprint. I worked both at Washington. I worked both at Oregon. The biggest thing there is that there is a lack of resources committed to the football program. These are not serious people. These are people that are not serious about winning at UCLA. And until that gets fixed, especially with the AD, who's now being given another opportunity to bring in a head coach, until that gets fixed, I don't know if any of it does. UCLA is a tough job. How do you put people back in the stands in LA? In LA and UCLA should be an attractive job. It's a traditional program that's rooted in history, that has had success, that's in Los Angeles, and one of the biggest hotbeds in all of the country. And in this day and age of NIL, this should be one of the more attractive college football destinations. Now, Adam Peters, a UCLA alum, is involved in this coaching search. Bob Myers, I read as well. I could be wrong. I got to go back. I got to double check. I believe Bob Myers is. Adam Peters and Bob Myers have worked together before. Bob Myers, one of the best front office executives for the Golden State Warriors during their championship run. So they have a collection of people that gives you a little bit of hope. But I'm in I'll believe it when I see it mode with UCLA. The last one, Oklahoma State. G.J. Kinney's been rumored there. You have Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator at the Atlanta Falcons. Used to play quarterback for the Cowboys. 3 out of the 4 have commonalities in terms of these head coaching vacancies where there's administrative issues. And that's going to be an issue for the majority of experienced head coaches. Like, this job is hard enough as it is. Can you give me the things that I need to be successful? Jeff Traylor, a name there, head coach at Texas San Antonio. But if I had to bet right now, probably be G.J. Kinney, head coach at Texas State. So we will see what the rest of the year looks like. What's it look like at Kentucky? Mark Stoops. Are the Wildcats ready to make a move? It's been a little ugly, a little cloudy there in Lexington. So a couple jobs in the SEC that we have our eye on. And Florida, obviously, seems inevitable at some point that they're going to yank Billy Napier out of there. And where do they go? So there you have it. 4 jobs open in the Power 4, and we're just getting started. We're only through week 5. Guys, just a reminder, make sure to leave a rating and a review wherever you find your podcasts. You can find Coop's Corner on Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. I told you we have a great show today, and I'm excited because it is one of those shows where it's just like, I decided, you know what? I'm not going to spend 6 hours today watching all 22 on 3 of the games that we previewed last week, because it just doesn't feel like the best use of my time when now we have a sample set through 5 weeks of the season where we've kind of learned something. So let's take a look at the AP rankings through week 6 of college football. And as it stands right now, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the defending national champions, number 1 team in the country, they go to Seattle. They handle business. They win that game by double digits. It felt like the game plan for Ryan Day was just protect Julian Sain. And that's enough. At some point, they're going to have to rely on Julian Sain to win a football game. He's not there yet, but the way their schedule sets up, I don't blame them for playing the way that they played. Oregon. We'll talk about the Penn State game a little bit later. Here's the thing with the 2 teams that are at the top of college football. Ohio State number 1, Oregon number 2. That's the way they're ranked right now. These 2 teams, just in terms of how they're built, not only in the short term, but how they're built year over year, how they are built in terms of investment into the roster. These are the 2 best programs in the country, not only in terms of what has showed up on the field through 5 weeks. There are no 2 better run programs in the country than what Ryan Day has in Columbus and then what Dan Lanning has in Eugene. All those things that I said were messed up with UCLA, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State. If you were to look at the model for how to run a program, it would be in Columbus and it would be in Eugene. From alignment, financially, from talent acquisition to where we're going to spend our money, to recruiting, geographical footprint, to what makes sense, to not wasting time, to identifying and understanding who's next in the hopper once a Chip Kelly leaves, once a Jim Knowles leaves. Once guys are gone, what's next? These guys execute at such a high level for 365 days a year. And then their teams just emulate them on Saturday. Ryan Day is a pretty steady guy. We've seen him be animated for sure. But his team, that's just kind of how they play. Dan Lanning, I don't know if you saw his post-game press conferences against Oregon. If you want to know what type of guy he is, just watch that. His team's got that itch too. They emulate him. So if you want to look for the blueprint of operating in rarefied air to compete for national championships every year, which is more and more difficult in college football, look at Ohio State and Oregon. 2. Not Alabama, not Georgia, not Clemson, not Miami. Not taking anything away from those guys. What I'm telling you is these 2 schools, what they have shown are on a different tier than everybody else, including anybody in the SEC. So that's what I've seen thus far. Now the parity part, and it really comes into play with what we saw on Friday versus Florida State in Virginia. Florida State beats Alabama at home by 14. They have their first road game against an upstart UVA team. They can't get out of their way. They look like the more talented team. They lose on the road. And the immediate reaction is, well, Florida State's not who we thought they were. Penn State, whiteout. You got Oregon coming all the way across the country. Lose at home at overtime. Game they should have won. LSU, top 5 team. One of the most talented rosters in the country. On the road. Get completely outclassed. And somehow have a shot to potentially even win that game in the fourth quarter. Georgia, Kirby Smart, the standard of college football. Alabama lost by 14 in Tallahassee. They look dead in the water. 4 weeks later, they go into Athens at night and without a doubt look like the better team. So, if you're a fan of a team that lost this weekend and you're thinking to yourself, man, our guys are just not what we thought they were. Heed the words from Kirby Smart and Brian Kelly post-game. Like, this is just life in the new age of college football. And they're right. Now, it's not an excuse for maybe how their team played in situational football, but this is life. This is life in college football. You are better to take and learn from being a fan of an NFL team and just like, hey, I'm more about focused to getting to 9 or 10 wins at the end of the season, being healthy, and playing my best football at the end of the year. That's it. That's it. That's the name of the game. Not we lost to Ole Miss or we lost to Alabama. We're not who we thought we were. No, you paid these guys in terms of coaching now to get the most out of your roster. Alabama, one of the most talented teams in their country, they pay Kalen DeBoer for what Alabama did on Saturday in Athens. And people are going to say, why can't they do that every week? It's part of the job. Adversity hits. How do you bounce back? We don't, like, outside of Ohio State, Oregon, maybe Miami, it's going to be really, really tough to run the table and go undefeated in the playoffs. Even if you do, what does it matter? You're still going to have to play the best teams. So that's what it's about. It's about growth. It's about getting better week to week. It's about managing your team. Keeping them right psychologically. Keeping them right physically. Keeping them engaged. Understanding what they have to play for week to week. One game does not do you in anymore. And if you look at the SEC, I don't know if there's going to be one team in the SEC that will have one loss or less. I mean, like, we're going to be back here in a few weeks. Ole Miss got to go on the road to Georgia, in Oklahoma. These are matchup games. Alabama, same deal. They got to go on the road at Mizzou. I mean, Tennessee and Missouri realistically have the best opportunity to come out with less than 2 losses out of the SEC. The SEC, you just got to understand, you were signed up for 12 rounds. And you're bruised, and you're battered, and you got to be tactful. And at the end of the day, you're just trying to give yourself a chance on Sunday to make a move. If you're a golfer and you understand that analogy. Hey, I'm 3 shots behind. Great. I got a shot. Put me in the arena. That's the new, you have to change your thinking if you're a fan of college football. Penn State's a good team. Dan Lanning said it last night. We're going to have to see those guys again. LSU, who is not yet even close to playing the level of football that they're capable of, lost that game by 5 points, and in every major statistical category got their ass kicked and was in it. Those are the teams that should scare you, because those are the teams that have an opportunity to continue to figure it out. Georgia Tech, good team, good coach. Jake Dickert, first year. Winston-Salem, Wake Forest. I mean, overtime. They have to survive. That's it, man. Winning ugly and winning on the road, getting it done is the name of the game. So, if you have an emotional overreaction to your team losing, understand that there's credibility in feeling the way that you feel about maybe some of the vulnerabilities of your team, the things that need to get fixed, the things that are going to continue to come up. But also understand this is a wholesome game. And it's like, let's just get back to base. Throw some water on the face, dust ourselves off, collect ourselves, and let's see what we got. That's the game. And after sleeping on it, that's what I would say. That would be my best advice to any fan out there that's maybe a little bit panicked, even if you're a Notre Dame fan. I mean, how do you feel about those guys right now? Yeah, defense got to get better, but talented team, they could run the table. Nobody's out of it. And SEC is going to be a gauntlet. Oklahoma, A&M, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. I expect all those teams to have 2 losses, more than 2 losses at the end of the year. And that's the way it's going to go. All right, guys, just a reminder, you're locked in to Coop's Corner. You can find us every Monday on the Cooper Petagna YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoopsPetag. Socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, at Cooper Petagna. I said it, guys, we're at 80 subscribers. We have 9 ratings reviews on the podcast. And it really has been awesome. Friends, family, people I don't even know, just reaching out, saying how much they enjoy the podcast. And if you do, let me just ask you a favor. If you're listening to this right now, you've made it through 30 minutes of me just rambling. Do me a favor. It's not that hard. Go to Apple, go to Spotify, leave a rating and review. If you're watching it on YouTube, smash the like button, smash subscribe. We're going to continue to bring content. Here's the other thing. Transfer portal, NFL draft, that's the wheelhouse, man. Me covering college football, cranking out content, just give you big picture thoughts right now. That's a oversaturated market. So if you're sitting with me listening to what I have to say, I appreciate it. All right, because there's a lot of other good resources that you can find to get opinions on college football week to week. The other thing I just wanted to make a comment on really quickly is the quarterback play. And speaking of the NFL draft, if you're one of these teams that needs a quarterback and is going to be picking at the top of the draft. That could be Cleveland. That could be the New Orleans Saints. You had to go into this year feeling pretty good. Lenoris Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik. And through 5 weeks of the college football season, you're probably sitting there scratching your head and saying, ooh. Like, which one of those guys am I taking and I'm feeling good about? Evaluating quarterbacks in today's college football setting has never been easier in terms of the resources that we have dedicated, and it's never been more difficult just based on what we've seen in the ever-changing landscape of college football. Been tough. DJ Lagway studied for 3 years, loved him, loved the way that he's wired, believe in him. This year has been tough. Missed spring, missed a little bit of the fall. It's like how much of the injury, how much of it is the injury, how much of it is him pressing because he knows that his coach's job on the line and he knows he's the guy. Garrett Nussmeier, how much of it is, this is my last year in Baton Rouge. I know the expectations. I want to win a national championship here. How much of it is that? How much of it is the injury? Drew Aller we'll talk about. Lenoris Sellers continuing to develop. But this quarterback class, and I get it, there's names like Mendoza and Dante Moore that are emerging. You see what's happened in the NFL. I mean, you see guys like Sam Darnold. You see guys like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is almost out of the league. I don't know. I don't have answers for it. Some of it's situational. Some of it is these guys maybe playing a tad earlier than expected, but they're trying to the pressure of meeting the timeline of on-field success, not only individually, but of the program of where you're at, compromises the organic, natural development of the position. And everybody wants to play early. I understand it. But not everybody's ready. And this is a really, really fragile position. So that's something that I have my eyes on, and it's like, I don't have an answer yet. Just watching these guys and seeing the lack of development, the lack of consistency, the lack of confidence, and the expectations both internally, externally, financially. It's a new day and age of college football where it's like, man, you want to talk about putting more value into like the neck up, and Lagway and Manning and Aller and Klubnik and Sellers, they're all wired the right way. That's a lot to ask on the shoulders of a 20-year-old quarterback. So I'm fascinated to see what this is going to look like over the next couple years. All right, I told you I was going to recap some of these games. And let's work our way back. So that means we'll start with Oregon and Penn State. And really what I want to do with these games is because I watched them. I watched more of Oregon, Penn State than I did Georgia, Alabama. I watched LSU, Ole Miss. I have not studied these games yet. So you know that I'm not, all right, how Drew Shelton match up against Mateo Uiagalelei. I'm not getting into that nitty gritty. To me, this is like big takeaways from this game. Oregon went into Happy Valley and Penn State as an underdog and beat Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, an extremely experienced offensive line, Jim Knowles, highest paid defensive coordinator in college football, went into Happy Valley during a whiteout and won that game. Was up by 14 at one point. Drew Aller comes alive in the fourth quarter. Same with Andy Kotelnicki. Forces the game into overtime. And Dylan Thieneman, the safety, the top safety transfer from Purdue, shows up in a big-time way. Game-winning interception. And you saw Dan Lanning after the game. He was so emotional. And you're like, what? Your team just won. What are you so, like, what is it? You could barely contain him. He could barely stay in the moment of that interview. He was so proud of the way that his guys played. And he told him, paraphrasing, hey, it's going to be a cut. It's going to be a cut game. It's going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. And then you never know which one's going to hit an artery. He's a psycho, a beautiful psycho. I love him. He's exactly what you want. He's a tamed animal. But that's what his team is, man. And you think about Oregon, you think about their DNA going all the way back to Chip Kelly. It was Flash. It was 17,000 uniform combinations. Mario Cristobal comes in. It's built on the offensive line. It's built on Penn Sewell. And then you have Dan Lanning comes in and he just mashes it all together. He brings that Kirby Smart want to SEC mentality. He goes out, he gets Isaiah World, #1 tackle in the portal. Gets Emmanuel Pregnon, one of the best interior linemen in the portal. Alex Harkey from Texas San Antonio. Puts that offensive line together with Alik Terry. And says, from the onset, when we joined the Big Ten, we are going to be the most complete, athletic, fastest, and physical team in this conference. Now, he's every year, he's going to go toe-to-toe with those Buckeyes. But from a physicality standpoint, he ain't wrong. And his team just lives and breathes who he is. So my biggest takeaway on this is, like, if you're a fan of college football, you've been watching from afar, and you've been looking not only at the on-field results, but you're looking at the future of the game. You're looking at how the game has changed. And you're saying, all right, I want a coach who's a critical thinker. I want a coach that can adapt. I want a coach that is going to leave no stone unturned year to year and not get complacent when he finally reaches the milestone of winning a national championship. Who else would you want? And in my opinion, you can very much make the case right now that Dan Lanning is the best coach in college football. And there are going to be people out there and say, well, he lost the head-to-head to Ohio State. He hadn't won the big game yet. I get it. I'm just telling you right now, is there another coach that you would want to lead your program for the next 5 to 10 years than Dan Lanning? No way. No way. And he's shown he can do it. Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore, Will Stein, Tosh Lupoy. And people are going to say, oh, well, you know, they have the backing of Phil Knight and Nike. I understand it. That's the game. That's the point he made with Mike Gundy. That is the game. We have resources. I'm going to utilize them responsibly. They took 11 guys in the transfer portal. They were ranked in the top 5. The next least total number of commitments in the portal that was ranked in the top 5 was 18. They took 11 dudes, 11 guys are playing. They don't miss. Rarely. Everybody misses, but they're just ahead of the game. And they're yielding a lot of responsibility with the piggy bank, but they're going out and they're doing it the right way. And you can say, yeah, maybe they're trust fund babies in the era of NIL, but like they're coming back and doubling and tripling the net worth. So I'll say it. There's no head coach that I would want more in college football than Dan Lanning. He's got that freaking psycho competitor, yet the exactness and the calculated vision to what they do and the execution of what they do 365 days out of the year. You can't ask for anything more. Other side, real quick. Penn State, it's all in front of you. You didn't play anybody in the first 3 weeks of the season. This was gut check. You were down 14 at home. Your quarterback showed up when you needed him the most. Threw a pick at the end of the game. That's a microcosm of Drew Aller. Find the guy that you had for the last 9.5 minutes of the game. Channel that guy. And play through him. And guess what? Aller's got to be better too. But I don't look at this game and say, oh, James Franklin couldn't get it done. Guys played their tail off, man. How do you not come out of that game feeling good about your team? Now, don't let that game beat you twice. Learn the lessons from that loss and get better. A lot of room to get better. Whew. I said it. We're zooming out. That's what we're doing. Let's talk Alabama, Georgia. Alabama goes into Athens. I wouldn't say steal. They just won that game against Kirby Smart in Georgia. And I said it in the game preview. I don't know if Clint Schumann and Kirby Smart really have an answer for what Alabama had offensively. Kalen DeBoer, Ty Simpson, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Ryan Williams. Alabama did enough in the run game to keep Georgia honest. Georgia offensively, probably some areas of the game that they'd like to have back. Georgia going to be fine. They played a 50-50 game against Tennessee. They somehow came out of that with a win. 50-50 game against Alabama didn't come out their way. That's the way it's going to go. You think about Alabama and Kalen DeBoer and the noise, rightfully so, the way that they had played on the road, not good. And they go into Georgia and they got a complimentary, balanced offense. And Ty Simpson in the play action, looking poised, control, pre-snap, post-snap, knows where to go with the football. That's what you want. And this is kind of what I talk about the parity, man. Don't let a single loss write your story for the rest of the season. Not to be cliche, it's just a chapter. It doesn't define the whole book. And there's a lot of people challenging Kalen DeBoer's manhood, me being one of them, being like, is this job too big for him? Because sometimes it looks that way. And then you see the ceiling of Alabama with a competent quarterback play, with a very good play caller, with a defense that's engaged and talented. And you say, whoa, those guys are scary. And that's my point, man. Like some of these games can be great lessons learned. The guys that at the top of the game are the ones to take the losses and squeeze the freaking life out of them to make their team better. Success is a lazy teacher. So who can take the natural motivation of getting kicked to the curb, getting yourself up, dusting yourself up, and keep going? And Kalen DeBoer, quite honestly, had a ton of questions about. Team went in there, handled business. How do you not love the way that Alabama's playing right now? So credit to him, credit to his staff, credit to just doing the hardest thing in college football, keeping these guys aligned and focused and bought in. Because it's really easy in the world that we live in to pick up the phone and just read how much you suck at your job every single day. So you want to talk about adversity? You want to talk about taking a haymaker and then coming back and responding? That's what great teams do. So credit to Alabama. Guess what? I don't think Kirby Smart's walking out of that game saying, hanging his head. I think he's saying, all right, we just took one into the chin. Credit to those guys. Kirby Smart is a 60-minute program. Georgia is a 60-minute program. You need your best for all 60 minutes to beat those guys. So credit Alabama, credit Kalen Moore. It's a huge deal. Now, the biggest thing with them that Nick Saban was so good at, consistency. Can you find it? Can you find it? Can you do that every week? Or not, hey, we just handle business against an opponent that we can all get up for. Can you do this week in and week out? Last game that I want to touch on here is LSU Ole Miss. This was a game where LSU was favored later in the week. Ole Miss was favored. Vegas went back and forth. And going into the game, I thought, all right, LSU, to me, on paper, was the more complete team. The biggest question mark is, can they run the football against an Ole Miss run defense that was one of the worst in the country? They're a little light in the middle. I talked about on the recap. Outside of Xavier Harris, Will Eccles, they're light on the edges. Can you get after him? Even with Caden Durham out. And LSU couldn't do it. And I said I'm going to stay macro, and I am. But this is the first time in 4 years under Brian Kelly where I think it is more than fair to question, is this guy the right guy? Is this the right guy for the job? And people might say, "Oh, you're spoiled." Brian Kelly said that. 10-4, 10-3, 9-4, 4-1. And I'll tie in the parity thing. But it's been a little bit of like frustrating from the fact that it's been 4 years of like administrative handholding. And what I mean by that is you fire two coaches from the onset in year one that are arguably your two best and most valuable coaches on staff now. Blake Baker, your defensive coordinator, and Corey Raymond, both in charge of getting an absolute lifeless defense through the first 2 years of the program back on track. You go from Mike Denbrock to Joe Sloan. Joe's been there 4 years, has the continuity. You have Brad Davis that's been there for 4 years and has recruited well. But it was like, all right, hey, BK, I'm Scott Woodward. Hey, BK, here's Austin Thomas. He's going to get you right because what we've been doing the last 2 years hadn't been good enough. Hey, BK, here's Blake Baker because Matt House wasn't good enough. Hey, BK, here's Corey Raymond, who knows what it looks like because your first couple hires on the defensive side have been an absolute disaster. So my question is, like, what is a Brian Kelly football team at LSU? Like, when you play Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, I could give you an answer. I know they're going to be multidimensional. I know they're going to be creative. I know they're going to be explosive. And I know they're going to be opportunistic on defense. When I play a Kirby Smart football team, I know that's going to be a 60-minute game. When I play Josh Heupel in Tennessee, I know that, hey, we can't fall asleep on these guys because I know how dynamic they are on the perimeter. Like Brian Kelly, it was 2 years of high-flying. Jaden Daniels offensively couldn't stop anybody on defense. Now it's been a tenacious, aggressive, blitzing Blake Baker defense. And we can't run the ball? And there's a lot of things that show up in a course of a game of burning 2 timeouts in the second half, timeouts that you need, that it's year 4. You've been a head coach for 35 years. What's your excuse? What's your excuse in the lack of operation and execution? What are you getting paid to do that is adding value to this team? Front office has done their job. They completely flipped one of the worst units in college football. Offensive line. Here's Braylon Moore. Here's Josh Thompson. All I need from you, can you get left guard and right tackle right? Can you develop Cohen Eccles? Can you develop Weston Davis? Like, hey, we addressed all the issues on our team with zeros. We just throw money at our problems. And guess what? We've been pretty darn good at it. But, Coach, I'm going to need you to step up. Offensive line, we got to be able to run the ball. Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Tradez Green, Barry and Brown, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton. I just named 6 players that will play in the NFL. And you got a first-round quarterback. Healthy enough. No, he's not. Anybody that does this for a living, go watch Garrett Nussmeier last year, watch him this year, and tell me that's the same guy. It's not. And you can put the decision-making on him. He's got to get better in some areas. A&T at the first half was terrible. But physically, you can't tell me that's the same guy. That guy is a lot more limited and banged up than whatever they've let on. And if that's the case, why didn't you sit him against Southeastern Louisiana? Why wouldn't you give him 2 off weeks within 3 weeks to get right? And it's easy for me to sit back here and critique it. I'm talking out loud. These are questions that I'm asking. So, like, what is LSU? Like, what are you? Who are you trying to be? And I'm not saying LSU's not a good team. I'm just saying if you're an LSU fan, there's 2 ways you can look at it. You can say, offensively, we didn't play well. Defensively, we had our moments. In any game, there's going to be things that happen like the West Weeks roughing the passer penalty that extend the drive. It ends up costing you 7 points. But like, what are we? We need to execute better. We need to play at a higher level. Are you putting your guys in the best position to succeed? And that's the thing, man. I talk about coaching. I talk about developing. I talk about adapting week to week. What are the things that are not working? Is that a psychological thing? Is that a schematic thing? Is that a technical thing? What is it? And the thing that's troubling if you're LSU, this goes back to last year. Couldn't run the football. And you had a guy that went top 5 and another guy that went in the 3rd round. So I'm generally wondering what is the value that's being added. Because the answers have come in the form of money. Blake Baker, top 5, highest paid DC in the country. Corey Raymond, got to get you back to reestablish DBU. All things that could have been avoided, by the way. So is that what's going to happen again this offseason if you don't make the playoffs? Back to the drawing board. Hey, well, we got to make this work. Let's go get Tommy Rees or whoever. And I think that's where LSU is. If they don't make the playoffs, it's another year of like spending more money. It's not my money. I don't care. and they've done a good job, and they're invested, and they're better than they've ever been there. But it's like, I'm just wondering what, like, as the head coach, what are you adding to this team in terms of identity that you could say, like, over these 4 years, this is where we've gotten substantially better to justify the expectations in the contract that I have. Brian Kelly's a good coach. I'm not saying that. The expectations at LSU are to win a national championship. And in year 4, with the roster that they have, which is a better roster than Ole Miss, and I'm not saying you're going to beat every team that you line up against, that on paper you're better suited to win against. What I'm saying is there's no more excuses. Like, oh, we got to play better. Yeah, no. Yeah, we know. We have eyes. But that's on you to get them right. So if I'm LSU and I'm a fan of LSU, I have every right to say, can we fix it? Like, that's a legitimate question. Can we fix it? Alabama fans, week 1, they said, can we fix it? They got their answer against Georgia. If you're an LSU fan, you're asking yourself the same thing. Can we run the ball against South Carolina? Can we run the ball against Vandy? Can we do enough to make sure that this team reaches its potential as a college football playoff contender? Which, let's make no qualms about it, this team, on paper, should be in the college football playoffs. Ask the people bankrolling them. I know that's tough. I know those are tough critiques. But, like, that's the job, man. You know. And with that, I'm saying, yeah, the conversation is now open up. I mean, we're in the timeline now where it's like, hey, proof's in the pudding. You know, maybe you've elevated the floor of the program. Nobody cares. Nobody, you know, there's really not that big of a difference for LSU fans if you're 9-4 or 4-8. They want ships. They want to be like Ohio State. They want to be like Oregon. They want to be in it every single year. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what you signed up for. Oh, man. If you can't see me on YouTube, guys, I got the Morgan Stanley hat on right now. Shout out to the best financial advisor in the business, Charles Boylan. On Friday nights, we call him Chad. Chaz, thanks for the hat, man. I appreciate it. Need a financial advisor. I don't know if he's taking clients right now, but shout out Morgan Stanley. Guys, I appreciate you listening to the show as always. Jam-packed show. I enjoyed doing the macro level, you know, this is where I think the game is right now, and this is what I've seen so far. And, you know, I don't know if I answered anybody's questions on, you know, who I think is legit and not legit. To boil it down, I think the SEC is going to beat up on each other. I think Texas Tech is a fascinating team to watch in the Big 12. And I got my eyes on Tennessee. So there you have it, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. Leave a rating and a review. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I've said that multiple times. And we're going to have a great show next week as well. I want you guys to have a great week, guys. Like I said, as always, thank you for tuning in to Coop's Corner. I'm Cooper Petagna. See you next time.